Hello, this is Mr. Bradsby. Good to be with you again today. What I have here to start us off is just a little review. We've got 5 problems here that I'd like you to just work them out. It's a review of some of our basic facts, a thing we don't want to forget. So would you please put me on pause and work these problems, and then we'll go on with our lesson, which does deal with multiplication again today. So put me on review, and we'll continue after you finish these problems. Here are the answers. You could take a quick look at them and see if you worked them correctly. While you're doing that, I'm going to take this problem here, okay? 7 times 9 is 63. The way we used to do that when we were learning about multiplication was we would build a grid, or we would call it an area rectangle, where we had 7 times 9, and we could get 63, just like this problem. The way we used to do it, remember, we would draw 7 lines here, and then we would draw 9 lines here. We'd count these squares, and we'd come up with 63. Well, the idea is that if we learn our basic facts, like we were practicing here today, then we know that 7 times 9 is 63. And we try to remember that. But there are other ways that we can find the answer, but we try to remember our basic facts of multiplication. Now, in the multiplication problems, we have the factors. The factors are like 6 and 7 are factors of 42. In this case, 7 and 9 are a pair of factors for the number 63, which is the product of these factors. So when we're multiplying, these numbers are called the factors, 7 and 9, and the product is 63. So here we are, we're looking at this 7 times 9 is 63, so the factor pair would be 7 and 9, factor pair 7 and 9, and the product, the answer, is 63. So there is some terminology, some mathematics when we talk about multiplication or when we talk about division. Usually we're talking about division, though, when we say, what are the factors, say, of 32? Well, there's different ones, but the ones we have here is the factor pair is 8 and 4. Those are the factor, that's the factor pair of 32, one of the factor pairs. If you were thinking this, you could have 16 times 2 is 32. So there are other factor pairs, but in this problem here, the factor pair is 4 and 8. In our model over here, the factor pair is 7 and 9, and my product is 63. Okay, we've also used this area model of 63 for division. Because here we have 7 times what is 63? Well, that's how we do division. So that this model could also be used for division. In this case, right, we know that 7 times 9 is 63. So 63 divided by 7 is 9. Okay? So this model could be used for either multiplication or division. And that's true because division undoes multiplication. 7 times 9 is 63. So 63 divided by 7 would be the 9. Okay? So multiplication, division undoes it, or if we do the division, multiplication undoes it. So they're inverse operations. Inverse operations. I'm not going to write it all out. Okay, so again, the multiplication, 7 times 9 is 63. 63 divided by 7 is 9. That's the inverse. They undo each other because we get to 9 when we divide by 7. It undoes our multiplication problem. And so the same model can be used for either the multiplication or division. So now let's see. With addition and subtraction were inverse operations, so are multiplication and division inverse operations. So we could write down these problems that come from this model here, okay? Let's see. If we were doing the multiplication, we could have the problems of 7 times 9 equals 63. Or we could say 63, okay, 63 is 7 times 9. Okay, so that's a pair of problems. The other one we could do is the commutative, switch them around, commute to Denver, come back, 9 times 7. And we know that's the same answer, isn't it? It's 63. Because commutative, you could change it. Well, or we could say 63 is commute 9 times 7, using the commutative property. Well, what do we have here in division then? If we take the 63 divided by 7, we'll get 9. Okay? Or 9 is 63 divided by 7. Or 63 divided by 9 gives me 7. Or 7 is 63 divided by 9. So again, just like addition, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different problems we could build from this model up here of multiplication and division. So this is just like the addition and subtraction, except this is the multiplication and division, because they're inverse operations. Okay? Okay, well let's go on. Here we're going to look at a situation problem and figure out how we can solve it and write a meaningful equation. Write an equation for what this represents. And again here, in this case, we're going to use the area rectangle to help us solve it. And you could draw a picture with each dollar bill and things, but that might take a while. But here what we have is $18. Okay? All right. So now, if we're going to divide this up, you see, if we're going to divide it up so that each person gets the same amount of money, we got to know how many people there are. How many people are there? What do you think? Well, I think we have Juan. He has a brother and he has a sister. So we're talking about 3 people. And so we've got the $18 and we've got 3 here. What is the multiplication fact that'll get us to 18? Question mark? Okay. Well, if we look at this, either 18 divided by 3 or 3 times what is 18? Kind of the same question, aren't they? So how do we come up with a solution? Well, let's write the equation for what this is. 3 times something, instead of putting a question mark, I'll just put an A. 3 times something is 18. So there's our equation. That's the equation we want to solve. Okay? So now how do I solve it? Well, I go to my basic facts. 3 times what is 18? Or 18 divided by 3. Either way. Because division undoes multiplication. So I can do it this way. 18 divided by 3 is. Well, I know it's 6 because 6 times 3 is 18. So either way you want to look at it, A has to be 6. So there's an example of a situation problem, and we solved it I used the inverse operation. Multiplication, division undoes the multiplication, and that's this problem here. 18 divided by 3 is 6, so 3 times 6 is 18. So the answer has to be 6. Well, that's about it for this lesson. It's using multiplication. These are factor pairs. The 3 times 6, 6 times 3, those are the factor pairs for 18 in this example, and 18 is called the product because that's the answer of a multiplication problem. And we're going to solve some situation problems too. Your teacher has some, your teacher can answer any questions you might have about this lesson, and then I think she might have some problems, some examples and some problems for you to do. Thank you for listening. Have a great time with your mathematics.